If New York and Las Vegas are the cities that never sleep, then the National Football League is the league that never sleeps, although it takes a nap. And right now we're in the nap time of the National Football League. And yet, on this edition of Defending the Kingdom, we're not napping. We're going to explore something that never happens in the National Football League. And of course, Defending the Kingdom, brought to you by Ticketmaster.
Keeps it on an RPO at the 5, gets a lead block, he goes into the end zone near side, touchdown, Kansas City!
Hi everyone, I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. We are going to explore on this edition, you don't want to miss it, send it to all your friends, something in the NFL that never happens. But before we do that, let's explore something else that was kind of a byproduct of last episode of Defending the Kingdom, and that is, if you're a small school, you want to get exchange students to be the kickers.
Yeah.
To set all that up, let's go around the world first.
Yeah, let's do it. I have 7 today.
All right, for Butt.
Yep. So
kicker, although he's not foreign born.
That's true. Hopefully a big year for Harrison Butker coming up. Lisa is in Queensland, Australia.
Yes.
Yep. Richard is checking in from Lakey, Texas. You ever been to Lakey?
Have not.
Yeah,
Maybe
Lakey, Texas.
should.
Yeah, we'll check it out. We have a listener in Orlando, Florida, surrounded by Bucks, Dolphins, and Jags fans, and they proudly rep their Chiefs gear and would wear DTK gear if we had any. So maybe one day.
We're getting it.
We're ideating. We're in the ideation process. We have a listener from Arcata, California. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Arcata.
You got me. I'm not down with California town pronunciations.
So it's I should have researched this. I don't know if this is the high school or if these just live there, but they said home of the Humboldt Crabs.
Yes.
So maybe it's a high school.
Let's go.
I'm going. If it is, that's great. Like the Humboldt Crabs is a great high school football name.
Is there a Cal State Humboldt? I'm trying to think. Or Humboldt State, maybe?
Kind of sounds like
there's a Humboldt State, yeah, but the Crabs.
Crabs.
The Humboldt Crabs.
It might just be that they have Humboldt Crabs there, but I'm just going to go with it, that it's the Humboldt Crabs.
Yeah, that opened the door for some opposing teams, but that's okay. Let's go Crabs.
They converted, this is good, they converted a close friend and an Oakland native into a Chiefs fan when they were roommates at K-State. So,
wow.
I love it. Shout out to you.
All right.
So we were curious what Otis High School was prior to the merger. I found out. Do you want to know what it is? Do you have any guesses?
Well, they're the Otis Bison Cougars now. Orange and blue. Otis Panthers.
It's the Eagles.
Sure, Eagles. The most common nickname across the U.S. That's documented.
What do you think? Let's go with the Eagles. Huh?
But Bison had to be the Bison. Were they the Bison?
I don't know. This was from someone that wrote in and told me
And you
this.
knew they were not going to be the Bison. When somebody criticized them saying, why aren't they the Bison? If they're Otis Bison, they're not the Bison, right?
Yeah.
You knew when they consolidate these schools, I'm telling you, it is like having a NATO meeting and trying to get everybody to agree that you're not going to be the Bison if we're from Otis and we're joining you. So we got to do something completely. So we'll make the Cougars and change our colors completely. So that's what happens.
Remember last week we talked about you could combine the animals into a mythical creature? Could you have a bison eagle? I don't know if that would work.
Sure.
Like a flying bison.
And just make up a word like velociraptor.
Yeah. I was so devastated when I learned that velociraptors in
real?
their form in Jurassic Park were not real. Ellie told me that honestly just a couple of years ago, and I'm like, wait, no, that can't be right.
Why am I not stunned that it would be your wife to correct you on that?
Well, she's reading 10 books a day. She's been reading like crazy. I'm not a huge reader. Maybe I should be. But I got the original Jurassic Park book, the Michael Crichton book, and I started reading it, and then she just had to chime in with that. Hey, by the way, velociraptors aren't real. What do you mean they're not real?
So Michael Crichton created that?
He did, yeah. So it was based off of a different kind of dinosaur that was real, but velociraptor sounded cooler. An actual velociraptor was the size of a chicken. Not quite the same. Doesn't hit quite as much. Yeah.
And part of one of the greatest movie scenes of our time in Step Brothers. And so it's shattering.
Exactly.
Although the Griffin, our Missouri Western fans, the Griffin is that's to your point.
Yeah.
Let's combo it up.
And when I learned that the Griffin logo was the shape of Missouri, I didn't realize that the first several years I was at camp. I've got
That's
one
brilliant,
more.
by the way.
It is.
Way to go.
It works out so well. So I have a Southeast Asia update for you. So how you always Well, so I have information on that. You know how you always talk about like activating parts of the kingdom? Like we're activating parts. We have activated Southeast Asia. Yes. And I'm fired up about it. So we learned last week that saying Laos is incorrect. It should be Lao, right? Well, we have multiple listeners out there.
Do we still call them Laotians?
Well, so I have info on that too. So I heard from David, and David is I think one of the first people that reached out to me that had lived in this area at one point, and he said that it's kind of interesting. The reason that we call it Laos in English is because it was colonized by the French, and when they colonized it, there was 3 different Lao kingdoms that all came under French influence, and they just grouped them all together because they were all of kind of the same kind of culture, and they called it Laos because it was multiple kingdoms of Lao.
So there should be an apostrophe in there? Is there?
Well, so in French, it makes sense without it. But what happened was when English speakers, this is, back in the colonial era, when English speakers would read it and read about this area, all they saw was Laos. So they started calling it Laos. So the reason that we call it Laos is because the French grouped these places together and it was kind of lost in translation. So anyway, he thinks it's actually okay for English speakers to say Laos. There's obviously some disagreement about this, but it's kind of like how we don't call Germany Deutschland. We call it Germany. It's okay because just in English it's Laos, but technically
it's Lao.
The people in Laotian is technically correct, but they also just call themselves Lao. So the Lao people
are
Lao, but in English, I guess it's okay to say Laos. But anyway, there you go. There's your history lesson today.
So if I met a Chiefs fan that is a born citizen, lived there all their life of Lao, then they're a Lao.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they would probably respect you saying Lao, but
they would allow me to call them Lao.
I think so. Yeah.
Lao.
So we've learned that. So anyway, if there's more updates, let us know. But I think we covered it.
We have activated Southeast Asia.
We've activated,
That's awesome.
And I think we have to go now.
God, these are so educational. Defending the Kingdom. You can actually get 3 hours of continuing ed if you're a professional, or if you're an undergraduate, you get 3 hours of credit. Just run it by your admissions office and see, or your comptroller to see if it works. I don't know who you'd go, comptroller. Anyway,
there's a sponsorship opportunity here, and I like to think that there's some people who are super engaged to this conversation, and others that are just skipping through it. Either way, it's all good.
I love
it's your loss. You don't learn about Lao.
Ticketmaster is our sponsor, right? Those of you watching and listening see the logo behind us.
Our new logo looks pretty good.
Maybe Park University ought to jump in here and get some continuing ed credit. You could take DTK and get undergraduate
Just
credit,
saying,
maybe graduate credit.
We're trying to teach people things. I have one more quick one, too.
All right, love it. Go for it.
My best friend from high school, Brandon, has lived in Kansas City his whole life. He's moving to Fort Worth next week to start a new job. He might be driving to Oklahoma when he's listening to this, for all I know. But anyway, Brandon, shout out to you. Good luck.
Yeah, and you'll represent us near the Star. Get ready for Thanksgiving afternoon. Chiefs against the Cowboys. The Hunts will not sleep for a month in advance of that game. They're going to be so fired up for that game.
Let's go ruin their Thanksgiving.
You know who else won't sleep will be Mahomes. He's going to be fired up for that game.
Playing in Jerry World.
And, the old White House Wildcat from Tyler, Texas. We did delve into something that if you're from a small school, high school, in the Chiefs Kingdom, and you get an exchange student, you immediately think that they're going to be a place kicker for the football team. I'll just tell you, and we got we know Gary Pugh, who's our Southern California Defending the Kingdom headquarters in San Diego. Longtime coach in San Diego. He was, and he loved the Chargers before the Chargers broke his heart and moved north. But and he was at Mar Vista High School. He was actually, I think, the Charger Coach of the Year one year. But he related a story after we got into this, because it's not just small schools that deal with this. In fact, he had a guy when he was at Mar Vista, a exchange student came from Bulgaria, and I want to get his name right because this gets it's Georgi Plachkov.
Nailed it.
Georgi Plachkov. Okay. He came to school, and immediately Coach Pugh thinks he's going to make him a kicker. Right? He's from Bulgaria. It's probably, and he goes, no, he wants to be a running back because his idol was Emmitt Smith.
How funny is that?
Yeah, it's so cool. And so Coach Pugh asked him, have you ever played like American football? He said he did, but it was on Nintendo.
Okay.
So that nails it, right? You got it. You got the game down.
Yeah, it's easy.
So Gary said, I let him be running back. We still had no kicker. So we had to go for 2 all season. I didn't ask him how that went.
Yeah.
He said, oh, no, wait a minute. We won 7 games, had opportunities to put him in on 2-point conversions to win the games, but didn't go so well. But Georgi Plachkov now lives in Omaha.
Okay.
And he's a big Chiefs fan, I guess.
All right.
And he does social media and does everything at the Lighthouse Bar and Grill. So if you're in Omaha, we have a gazillion Chiefs fans in Omaha and Council Bluffs. So check out Georgi at the Lighthouse Bar and Grill and ask him about kicking. Now, let's take Smith Center, right? And by the way, a tribute to the legendary coach featured in the book Our Boys, Roger Barda, who had the 79-game winning streak at Smith Center, the 5th longest in U.S. history, the longest in Kansas history, passed away recently. And his memorial services, there'll be 2 of them, one in Manhattan on Friday and one in Smith Center on Saturday as we tape this. But exchange student comes to Smith Center, Norbert Strasser. Now, we'd had a good kicker before, not an exchange student, Rick Schroeder. In fact, he won a game at a walk-off 41-yarder. It was like, great. Now we got to find a place kicker. So, hey, we're getting an exchange student, Norbert Strasser from Germany, Deutschland. I don't know where he was, but I'm thinking this guy has got to be a place kicker. Like, I see him belting 55-yarders, and we're winning, you know.
Bayern Munich. This guy loves soccer.
Yeah.
He's going to boot it.
Stuttgart Surge. And so I go, hey, have you ever kicked? He's like, I play soccer. I do, das Spiel and der Stadt. And I'm like, all right, well, can you kick this? So I actually took him out there. And let's try it. And it was so bad.
Oh, no.
He's like, I can't, nicht. So that was it. But if you get an exchange student, if you're a small high school and a good football school, then make sure you get a place kicker.
Where was Martin Gramatica originally from?
He was from Argentina.
Yeah. So there you go. Right there, right? Yeah.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
We just saw him. Where did we see him?
Yeah, it was at an event, and you introduced me to him, and I'm like...
Super Bowl. It was at the Super Bowl.
I'm like, what?
Yeah. Super Bowl.
Matt, this is Martin Gramatica?
And his
really
brother,
nice.
Bill,
Yeah.
who tore his ACL jumping in a celebration when he kicked for the Arizona Cardinals.
It was at the media circus, right?
Yeah, circus. He came up. Yeah, Martin is awesome. We went into the K-State Hall of Fame the same night.
That's so cool.
And that was that guy was revolutionary in the way he could kick, and then became a Super Bowl champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Perfect example. If you get an exchange kicker like Martin Gramatica, they've got to be. Do your due diligence here. This is just vetting. When you're looking at an exchange student, make sure they can kick 50-yard field goals for your high school football team.
Well, we should have we should start assembling, this could be in the DTK store, our bullet points, our commandments for the college football or high school football programs where you have to have a mascot that represents your area. Can't just be like the Eagles. You got to have a foreign exchange student.
Must be your place kicker.
Must be. Anyway, we can keep coming up with these.
You can vet this out now. We're being serious here. What if you lose your game 20-19 because you don't have a field goal kicker and you got to go for 2 every time, like Gary Pugh had to do it at Mar Vista? All right, there's something that never happens in the NFL. You can tell this is the nap time of the league, and our team is scattered. They get some time away. So do the coaches, and so do all the ancillary folks like equipment and those guys that work and gals work so hard. And Coach gives them a very stern discussion before they leave of like, hey, when you come to St. Joe, don't just lose it here over these 3.5 weeks. When you come to St. Joe, we're going to hit the ground running. And the vets will tell everybody, hey, believe him.
Well, Trent McDuffie had an event at the zoo last week. Really cool event, actually, where he was with some kids that are going through hospice care, which is just horrible. But Trent was giving them, and their family is a great memory and great experience. Anyway, my wife works at the zoo, and she was there working with him. And she asked him, hey, you get a bit of a break, right? And he goes, I have 30 days. He knew exactly how many days he had, down to the minute, down to the hour. So, the guys know exactly how much time they have.
And the stomach starts churning about it. You really only have about 20 because the last 10 days your stomach starts churning.
Yeah, it's it's next week.
All right, but here's something that never happens in the NFL. We get so excited about this league, right? It never stops. After the Super Bowl, it goes right into free agency. We got fake free agency and then free agency. And then
free agency.
And then it gets into the draft, and we're all nuts about the draft. And it never, that's time for mini camp, right? And then let's go, not mini camp, but OTAs, and then into mini camp, and then you get the nap time. But and so we get excited about the new year coming up. But what do we do to nullify all that? for whatever reason, people that cover the NFL, give opinions on the NFL for the next season, always revert back to the last season.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be some replication of the year that just happened. What? Seems like a contradiction to me. Meaning, how many times have you heard pundits go, I think the Chiefs are going to be 5-12 because you can't have 9 games where you win all one-possession games. That ain't going to happen, folks. That ain't going to happen again. Where in the Lord's green earth do they think that that's going to be that way again? Doesn't that drive you crazy?
It's like deja vu every single year. Like you were going through all the different checkpoints of the offseason. We've reached the peak point of national media hates on Chiefs. Like, I don't understand it. Because here's what happens is
But why
every
would
year,
you think this year's going to be like last year?
and it's only the things that could regress negatively are the things that are going to change in their opinion. Because nothing can get better, right? It can only get worse. It doesn't make sense to me. And we're going to talk about all the things that we think could happen this year that for some reason isn't really being talked about that are positive and that could make some of these potential negative regressions not happen. But I guess you have to keep the national news cycle interested. I mean, I was, we have Good Morning Football on all the TVs in the office, and it was on mute. I just looked up, and just like a random Tuesday, it's like, who will dethrone Chiefs in AFC? Maybe the Chiefs will be the one in the AFC again. I have no reason to think they won't be, and we'll lay it out. But it's just the continual talking point. I don't know.
But the reference point is always that the last year will be this year for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Now, let's dive into this because one of the areas that we're going to look at, what didn't happen but could happen. What did not happen for the Chiefs in 2024 but could happen in 25. And I'm going to get into explosive plays in all 3 phases. Let's take runs. Last year, the Chiefs had 3 runs of 30 to 39. You realize 2 of those were Mahomes scrambles, including the game that against the Panthers, where he led to one of the replacement kicker field goals. The other one was by Pacheco. There were 4 runs of 20 to 29 yards. 2 of those were Xavier Worthy, and one was McCole Hardman. Now, this is not to cast aspersions on Kareem Hunt. In fact, I'm going to highlight Kareem Hunt here because the Chiefs had more 2nd and 5 or less than any team in the NFL last year. They had 78 of them. Now, the problem came, that was number 1 in the league by 17 times. But it was second down conversions that were a problem. Chiefs with 29%. Okay, does anybody think that the Chiefs won't have a chance for more explosive runs of 20-plus yards or 30-plus yards, or be better on 2nd and 5 perhaps than they were a year ago? I go back and I watched it 5 times. The 48-yard touchdown run by Pacheco against the Jets in 2023 wasn't real tricky. It's tackle over tackle. Juwan Taylor is on the left side in a tackle-over-tackle unbalanced line, does a great job, folds in the block. You remember Trey Smith comes around and absolutely buries Jordan Whitehead.
Yep.
And Pop is on his way to a 48-yard score. Who's thinking that play, maybe that'll happen in 2025?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And, I think what's interesting is a lot of the things that we're going to talk about are all kind of connected. So I have a couple of points that I think could be better in 2025 that are directly connected to this. And the first would be injury luck. I mean, what incredibly terrible injury luck did we have last year? Listen to these 4 names, okay? Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, Samaje Perine, Juju Smith-Schuster. Those 4 combined for nearly 2,000 scrimmage yards last season. That made up 34% of the Chiefs' total scrimmage yards as a team. What did all 4 of those guys have in common? They weren't in training camp with the Chiefs. You have 34% of your offense coming from players that were not even in training camp with you. I'm not talking about like off-season practices or mini camp. I'm talking about training camp. Training camp ended, and those 4 guys were not with us in St. Joe, and they ended up all being major contributors. Kareem Hunt led this team in scrimmage yards last year. DeAndre Hopkins was 4th. Perine was 6th. Juju was 11th. So injuries are going to happen, but how often do you lose your top 2 receivers in Hollywood and Emrashee and your lead running back in Isaiah Pacheco all prior to week 5, and you still win 15 games and go to the Super Bowl? So with that in mind, the Chiefs had to retool their entire offensive scheme mid-season last year. We've talked about this at length, that the offense that we saw in St. Joe we couldn't do it during the season because we didn't have the major players that offense was built around. Now, to the Chiefs' credit, they retooled this, which is so hard to do. A lot of teams would just kind of fall apart. But the new game plan was we're going to minimize and shrink the game. We're going to use Kareem Hunt. We're going to use this running game. We're going to use the short passing game. We're going to have a ton of long drives. We're going to try to be efficient. But we're going to shrink this game down. So I have numbers to back this up. The Chiefs led the NFL in 10-play drives last year with 45, and they led the NFL in points scored on 10-play drives with 198. Unsurprisingly, they also had the second fewest offensive possessions of any team in the NFL with 169. So what does that do? It creates a lot more opportunities for one-score games because you're only having 7-8 possessions a game. It's going to come down to the very end every time. If the Chiefs can generate more explosive plays this year with the offense that we thought we were going to have last year, you're going to have faster scores, more possessions, and hopefully not a bunch of one-score games.
Yeah, you just gave the Coach Bart a formula, by the way, of how he won 350 games. But the point is here that the Chiefs may not have a one-possession game if they get a 48-yard run by Pacheco.
Exactly.
Or Rashard Smith maybe catches a check down and he goes for 60 yards for a touchdown. The point is this team is ahead of schedule. Go back. If you haven't DTK binged, this is a good time during nap time to do that over the next 3 weeks. This team's ahead of schedule where they were a year ago. Even when they started training camp, they were way ahead of schedule, and I think close to where they ended training camp. And staying healthy, getting more explosive plays, maybe you don't win 15 games, but you may have a shot at winning 12, 13, or 14 and not 5 and 12 like some pundits think. Defensive – okay, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add that nationally people are saying, to get back to what we started all this with, there's no way the Chiefs can win all these one-score games again. Well, maybe the games won't be one-score games. Maybe they won't come down to the very end because, like you said, maybe there's an Xavier Worthy 50-yard touchdown pass or a Rashee Rice 60-yard touchdown catch or Isaiah Pacheco 35-yard touchdown run. The Chiefs can score in 4 or 5 plays. They don't need 10, and that saves 5 minutes of clock. You just created another possession, and maybe you can go up by 10 and not just be up by a touchdown. Anyway, I digress.
Well, you're not digressing. In fact, you're progressing into the next area, and that is maybe you're more explosive in defensive plays. How many defensive scores did the Chiefs have last year?
So Chamari had one.
Yep. Against the Bengals.
Oh, man. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
One. They went 15-2 with one scoop and score. That's it. Now, let's put this in perspective. The Denver Broncos had 5.
Man.
That could regress to the mean.
Nope, no way.
Oh, it won't be. I'm sorry.
No way.
Sorry. Baltimore had 3.
Won't regress. Nope.
Buffalo had 3.
Won't happen. No.
Houston had 3. What if Kansas City has 3? And there's 2 more defensive scores, either a pick six or a scoop and score or tip pass, interception, whatever. Maybe George Karlaftis tips a pass, and it's gathered in by Mike Dan, and he runs in for a score. Could that happen possibly? It didn't happen a year ago, but no way. The Chiefs have won 9 one-possession games. How about being more explosive defensively?
Why is it always that the other teams, those are great trends, and they're going to continue those things, but, us winning one-score games, which I do think is a skill set, surely that will regress. It drives me nuts. I'm with you. Here's the thing, is you cannot rely on defensive scores. And that's why Denver having 5 of them last year, to me, that would be a troubling statistic where it's you can't replicate that. You have to find that offense somewhere else because, that's random, as the Chiefs have shown. And, yeah, be more explosive defensively. It takes pressure off the offense as well. I think it's incredible the Chiefs were able to win all those one-score games last year without scoring defensively, except for that one time against the Bengals. That's remarkable.
Go back in Chiefs history. It's why everybody calls the 2003 Chiefs defense trash. Look at their giveaway takeaway. How many takeaways have they had? And the people forget about the Romeo Woods scoop or the pick six against Brett Favre and the great victory over Green Bay. All right, I do digress there. Now, here's the biggest area. The biggest area people aren't thinking about, special teams. We covered this on the last episode. The last time there was a kickoff return for a touchdown by the Chiefs was?
2020.
2020, Byron Pringle in the snow, one of those crazy October snowy games against Denver. All right, the last time the Chiefs returned a punt for a touchdown was?
A punt would have been, was that McCall or was that a kickoff?
No, it's McCall.
Which was 2020.
2020, COVID year. Go all the way back to COVID year. This is the last time the Chiefs scored in special teams. That includes a block punt for a touchdown. That could happen maybe. None of that. You think that could happen this year? Or what people are not thinking about is the fact that the kickoff, if it's a touchback, has been pushed up to the 35-yard line. So give Pat Mahomes a start 5 yards ahead there, or maybe you return a kick it back to the 40-yard line. Let's go back to the 03 Chiefs. Check out how many times Dante Hall had a kick or punt return that gave the ball to the offense at the minus 40 or even better. Now, the new kickoff rule could actually help the Chiefs. There's going to be games decided. Last year we kind of talked about this. We all got excited about the new kickoff rule. It was
Didn't really happen.
Don't you think it? Oh, but wait a minute. That was last year. It's going to happen exactly like this year? Not so much. And think about, maybe Xavier Worthy returns a punt. Go watch his Texas video. Maybe Brashard Smith could return a kick, maybe for a touchdown or good field position. Nico Remigio was close, right? He started the Houston game with a long return. So maybe all of a sudden the Chiefs become more explosive in the special teams that they didn't have and haven't had really for several years.
Yeah, because when you have the extra 5 yards now with the ball on a touchback going to the 35. We thought it would happen last year, but I think going to the 35, a lot of teams are going to roll the dice on kickoffs instead of kicking it out the back of the end zone because, I mean, you're at the 35. You're one, 10-yard play from being at midfield. I mean, that's just crazy. With the kickers in today's NFL, you're a couple chunk plays away from being in field goal range immediately off a touchback. Like, you can't do that. So I think we are going to see a lot more in the return game this year. And I feel really good about our group because we talked about it, I think maybe last episode, but Coach Tobe's calling Xavier Worthy the best punt returner in the league that nobody is talking about because if you have Rasheed and Hollywood back, of course Xavier is going to play a bunch on offense, but he's not like the main guy. He's not the only wide receiver that you're counting on to have like consistent big performances. You can have him also back there on punt return where he can be a serious weapon. And yeah, Brashard Smith, I mean, we saw some great things from him throughout the offseason training program. We'll see what he can do with pads on, but that's how he can affect this team right away is on special teams and the kick return game because when you have his skill set, a former receiver, but also he's a running back now, you can make guys miss. You're fast. Like, I just have high hopes for him. So, and Nico, of course. Nico did some good things last year. So, all those guys, even Jalen Royals did it in college, I think, as well. So, I think we have some guys that can do it back there. And if we're getting more opportunities, even if they're not scoring touchdowns, getting Patrick Mahomes the ball at the 50 or something is pretty cool. How many times over the years have our drives started at like the 8? It's 1st and 10 at the 12. Like, just give the offense a little bit more room, a little bit more space from the shadow of their own goalpost. Good things happen.
It's the most underrated stat of Patrick Mahomes is how many 90 and 80-yard drives he's had for touchdowns in his career. It's crazy. But if he gets the ball let's give him the ball at the 43 and see what happens. Maybe they go all the way for a touchdown and get a special team score, something that has not happened since the 2020 season. Now, we'll close this with what did happen that might not happen in 2025. Remember, it's all going to be the same for the Chiefs. It'll just be replicated, so that's what the pundits think. What did happen, it might not, and I would say the 3rd and long defense. Kansas City defensively has been so good over the past several years. We know how the Week 18 game convoluted the stats. It drives you and me crazy. But one thing, over the season, the Chiefs were 26th in the league in 3rd down defense. 26th, all right? The 3rd and long, they were actually 6th, but it's when the 3rd and longs happen. If you go back to the Super Bowl even, or the Buffalo game, the loss in Buffalo, giving up a 3rd and 8 on a scoring drive or a 2nd and 11. Went back and looked at those. And Josh Allen had the 4th and 2 touchdown, but there was a 3rd and 9 prior to that the Chiefs, if they keep him at 4th and 9, they're not going to try a Josh Allen run for a touchdown to win the game. Even in the Bronco game, the walk-off, block-off field goal, there was a 2nd and 15 that went for 34 yards to Troutman, and then a 3rd and 6 conversion in that game, or that wouldn't even have been a field goal try. So that's where I'm saying what did happen in 24 that might not happen in 25, and to me that's a big area defensively.
Yeah, for sure. I looked at even beyond just 3rd and long, how about 3rd and 10? Because how many times last year was it 3rd and 10, 3rd and 13? And it's interesting because the defense was so good last year. In terms of scoring defense, we throw out the Bronco game at the end. This was the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL, and yet they struggled on 3rd and long and 3rd and 10. They allowed opponents to convert on 3rd and 10 at an 18% clip last year, which doesn't sound super high, but for when it's 3rd and 10, that's pretty high. And here's what's interesting and kind of supports our argument that I don't think that will happen again because that's kind of like unusually high. In 2023, the Chiefs were the best defense in the NFL on 3rd and 10 or longer, allowing conversions at just a 3.4% clip. So it's weird. I mean, the Chiefs allowed...
Take the average, Matt.
Yeah,
just
right.
Take the that's our point here.
Get it down to like 9%, right? Like, it's crazy. And here's what's interesting is the Chiefs allowed the 5th fewest plays of 10 or more yards in the NFL last year. 5th fewest. It just happened that a lot of those happened on 3rd and 10. So that's one of the things with the offseason where there's scheme eval, right? You have a great opportunity to dive into, hey, what went wrong last year? What were some things in our scheme that we can work on? And I think 3rd and 10 and 3rd and long in general is one of those areas. I'll add one more thing too. Red zone touchdown efficiency.
I was getting there. That was next.
Yeah, so mind meld. How about that?
No, go in there.
Well, so the Chiefs were 22nd in the NFL in red zone touchdown efficiency last year, scoring touchdowns at just a 53.8% clip. And this is one of the reasons a lot of these games were close as well, because look at the block-off game against the Broncos. The Chiefs outgained Denver in terms of yardage. Like, everyone looks at that game nationally and says, the Broncos clobbered the Chiefs and the Chiefs got lucky with the block at the end. The Chiefs outgained Denver offensively, but we were 1 for 4 in the red zone, and we allowed them to hang around. How about the Raiders game with that crazy snap at the end that was like the penalty and the game was over? Well, the Chiefs were 1 for 5 in the red zone in that game. If you just score one more time in the red zone, turn one field goal into a touchdown, these aren't these crazy walk-offs or whatever one-score victories. They're solid, handled victories that didn't come down to the final play. Now, the Chiefs were getting to the red zone last year. They had 65 red zone drives. That was 8th most in the NFL. And it wasn't too far behind Detroit, who led the NFL with 72. You're only 7 red zone drives away from leading the league. Just didn't cash in enough when we were down there. And back in 2022, this was the number 2 red zone offense in the NFL. And that was also the year we were the number 1 scoring offense in the NFL. So these are things the Chiefs can manage. Like, it's not like the offense wasn't moving the ball at all. They're getting into the red zone. It's just a big difference when you don't score touchdowns and you come away with field goals. It makes all the difference in the world. So that's one area I'm hoping we see some improvement this year.
And that was my next one. Who was number 1 in the league in red zone touchdown efficiency? Baltimore. Who was number 2? Buffalo. So they have to do that again. All right. If we're going to get 9 one-possession games again, anybody saying, Baltimore and Buffalo better be just like the best teams in the earth in red zone offense. So you can see what we're doing here. And the last year with all those red zone possessions goes back to your thesis point earlier that the Chiefs had to change the way they play. They were playing Coach Barta football. Okay. Well, maybe you don't have to have that many red zone possessions if you get more explosive plays. Now, here's where I'm going to tag with that, too. And here's where I think, as fans going into St. Joseph here after the nap, can look at and say, you don't have to just hum it down the field at the 3rd level, and I hope I get a 54-yarder Xavier Worthy like the Charger game. You can also throw, Rashee Rice on a 12-yard crosser, and he turns the corner like he did against the Raiders in 23 and turns it into a 50-yard touchdown. Okay, that might be more of the weaponry in 2025 if the team's healthier. Or Brashard Smith, you throw a check down because everything's covered at 8 yards, and maybe he goes for 58 yards on a check down throw. That's what the 25 Chiefs have the potential to do.
And that's where the dynamic of our offensive weaponry, I think, is leading us to that outcome, because last year we just didn't have a lot of these guys. And last year we had to change our offense and change our identity to fit what we had offensively, right? And this year, with Hollywood, with Xavier, with a second year now and a full year in the system, and we saw what he did the second half of last year, you have a healthy Rashee. You have Travis Kelce back where he doesn't have to necessarily get 120 targets because you have these other weapons in the offense. If you are able to stretch the field with Xavier and Hollywood, there's going to be a lot of room underneath for players like Kelce and Rashee. Juju Smith-Schuster, hopefully Jalen Royals. And those guys are all capable of making defenders miss. So I'm with you on that I think we will see a lot more, hopefully, of the Xavier Worthy beats a guy one-on-one and it's 50 yards downfield. But also, you can't discount the explosive plays can happen on a 6-yard pass, right? It doesn't matter if it was thrown 60 yards or 6 yards. Before we close, I have a fun thing I want to do with you, too, whenever you want to do it.
Let's do it right now.
Okay, so ESPN came out with this thing called the All-Quarter Century Team. Okay? So it's since 2000, they made like a 53-man roster and a coaching staff of the best players and coaches since the year 2000. So I'll give you some hints here. There are 8 Chiefs representatives, okay? 4 are current. 1 is a coach. But the coach is on there. There's a head coach and 3 coordinators.
A chief is a head coach.
So I don't want to spoil too much.
Okay.
It's not Coach Reed.
Okay.
Bill Belichick got the head coaching nod. People can argue that all they want. I would put Coach Reed personally, but they put Bill Belichick. But we have one of the coordinators.
We do. Former chief that's a coordinator.
It's a current Chiefs coordinator, is one of the coordinators of this all-century team.
Okay. So that's one of the 8.
That's one of the 8.
Okay. So Pat and Kels are 2 of the 8, right? Spags is going to be the coordinator.
It's not Spags, which is
It's Tobe.
It's Dave Tobe. Yeah.
Dave Tobe.
Yeah. Wade Davis was the defensive coordinator. Not Wade Davis. Wade Phillips.
Wade Phillips. Okay.
Yeah, but Coach Tobe I thought was pretty cool.
I respect Coach Phillips, man. Sorry, brother, you ain't Spags. That's okay. All right, so I got Tobe, I got Pat and Kels.
One more current player
on our team currently, Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, yep.
Okay, so we're at 4 of the 8?
Yep, so there's, let's see, 1, 2, there's 4 more that are all former players.
Tony Gonzalez,
yep.
There's 5. So I got 3 more to go.
Yep. And these are organized by depth chart. So Mahomes was the number 3 quarterback behind Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Kels was the number 2 tight end behind Gronk.
Stop it.
I know. Stop. I know. And Tony G was the number 3 tight end.
Okay.
Chris Jones was the number 3 defensive tackle behind Aaron Donald and Calais Campbell. I get Donald. I'm not so sure about Calais Campbell. But the other ones on here, there's a number 1, a starter.
A starter. Offensive player?
Offensive player.
Will Shields. Does he count? He only had 7 years.
Will Shields didn't make it, which is crazy.
Well, it's 2000 to 2006. I mean, he retired in 06. He would have had 7 years of this 25, so probably not enough.
Must have been why. If it was a 90s team, he would have been on there.
Okay.
But, yeah, this
Creed
is a
Humphrey?
starter. Nope, not a current player.
Not a current player. Past player.
You'll like this one, honestly. This is I respect ESPN for picking him.
It's got to be a lineman.
Nope.
Not a lineman.
Skill position.
Oh, Priest Holmes.
Priest Holmes was the number 1 running back.
Okay.
Which
number 1 running back?
Number 1 running back. Yeah, for the all-century team. Ahead of
Saquon
Christian
didn't have
McCaffrey.
Okay, yeah. Saquon might have a anyway.
People don't realize Priest Holmes, his stretch from 01 to the middle of 04 was mind-boggling. And if you want to go online and check it out, I recommend you do.
We're at 7 of the 8?
So you have 2 more, actually. 2 defensive players. And neither spent their entire career with Kansas City. One of them's kind of like not
Jared
even
Allen.
fair. Jared Allen, yeah. Jared Allen was the number 2 edge rusher.
Okay.
This last one is a deep cut. He spent half a year with us.
Oh, my.
In 2017.
Oh, gosh, I'm blanking out.
Number 1 cornerback.
Number 1 corner is what we had Surtain. Oh, a Ty Law.
No.
No?
The 2017.
2017. Blanking out.
Darrell Revis. That's the funny thing is like
Revis Island.
Like the rest of them.
I don't even think of him as even like
a chief. I
for
know.
Us.
Well, and that's the thing with like Jared Allen. I get Jared Allen was only here for 4 years, but he led the AFC in sacks. Like he was a chief until he left. Darrell Revis is not a chief, but for the purposes of this, you got to consider him one.
Darrell Revis. He'll be. I mean, as we age, people go, and I go, was he even a chief? Like, oh yeah, he was. Okay, for 2 games.
Yep.
All right,
yep.
all right,
anyway, good job. Pretty cool, right?
We know that's real cool.
Yeah.
Excellent job. All right, so we know these things for certain. 1, if you're going to find an exchange student from Bulgaria, vet them. Ask them who their favorite player is. If it's Harrison Butker, get them. If they say Emmitt Smith, then go, you know what, we're going to go ahead and look at this a little further. So make sure your exchange students are kickers. That's a big deal, right?
That's our takeaway from today.
Okay. And the second thing is, in the NFL, No 2 years are the same. So why do you spend all next year prognosticating that it's going to be like the last year? It never happens.
It never happens. And, maybe some things it's like, ooh, this is going to regress. Maybe it's possible that some things that all went wrong last year might just regress the other direction and then help out overall.
Third thing, Matt and I are going to go take a nap. Kingdom Defenders, get ready. Just take a little snooze. We come back, we'll attack the 2025 season. But just know, it won't be like 2024.